Welcome, Army fans. This is Joe Iacono with GoBlackKnights.com, along with two very special guests. One of them almost doesn't seem like a guest as much as he's on our podcast. 2018 grad, former outside linebacker Alex Aukerman. And tonight, for the first time on the GBK podcast, 2015 grad, former running back great from the Army days of the Rich Ellerson, Jeff Monken transition, Raymond Maples. Guys, how we doing tonight?
Doing well, doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Happy to have you here, Ray. So first off, we'll just start with some introductions. Most of the fan base knows who you guys are, but just so they can catch up a little bit, as I mentioned, we'll start with Raymond. Raymond, 2015 grad, former running back, set a number of records while he was at Army. And Raymond, just tell everybody what you're doing now, kind of, where you're living and what's going on in your life.
So right now I'm down in Houston, Texas, pretty much on the suburbs of it. It's called Porter, a little bit outside of the city limits, but still pretty good area. Right now I'm working as a power trader for one of the energy firms down here. I've been doing it for about 3 years now. Enjoy it. Pretty good industry. Whole lot of room for improvement. I mean, forward mobility and all that. So uh, life is good. Life is good. Houston, I mean, can't beat the weather. Granted, you get the hurricanes and the crazy storms from here and there, but other than that, man, it was 80 degrees in mid-November today, so I can't complain whatsoever. Uh,
Nice. Yeah, Houston's a great city. I feel you on that. I think I could be wrong, but I want to think Ahmad Bradshaw moved down to that area. I know
yeah,
he's
we
somewhere
got
in
we got
Texas.
it's a couple people down here. You got Bradshaw, Nate Combs, Steve Erzinger. You got a bunch of folks down here.
Good stuff. Houston, Texas. And from the great Midwest, where I'm sure it wasn't 80 degrees today. Alex, tell the fans what you're up to these days and what's going on in your life.
Yeah, so around here 2 days ago it was 68 and sunny, and today we had a snowstorm. So there you can definitely complain about the weather here. But yeah, so I moved back to Indianapolis, which is where I'm from originally. I'm from Greenwood, but I live up in Carmel, Indiana. I run an asphalt business, so it's just a small business. It's pretty seasonal, so it's calmed down a little bit, but we were really busy from April to October, so. Yeah, that's going well. Obviously, just had my first kid, a son, and it's been a great time. Becoming a dad, and a lot of changes in life, but it's been great.
Oh yeah. That's awesome stuff. Congratulations on that, Alex, and Raymond. Congratulations on your baby as well, and your puppy too, I guess. But so kind of first let's talk about Army's historic season, right? It's not the first time they've gone 9-0. They did it back in the 40s, and they started the 96 campaign actually 9-0 as well, before falling to Syracuse. But it doesn't happen often. Add to that the excitement of playing a big time opponent in a big time venue. For a possible shot at the expanded 12 team playoff in college football this year. And how excited are each of you as alumni of the program about what this team is doing? Let's start with you, Raymond.
Hey, I'm Joe. I am beyond excited. Granted, I think this is probably in my opinion, this is probably one of the most historic seasons in the history of West Point. Granted, yeah, we had those good years back in the 40s and stuff, but that was during a time of war where people were coming to West Point to kind of get out of going to the going overseas or going to the draft. Uh, this year, you don't have that excuse, and I think what they're doing out there is pretty historic. And this game, this upcoming game this weekend, honestly, I think it's one of the biggest games in the history of West Point because I mean, if we win it, it's a game changer. I think it has the potential to put West Point on the map as far as being a pretty elite school and elite program, and I'm just excited for the guys and excited for the opportunity that they have.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's funny when you talk about the teams in the 40s. I didn't even know this till I watched the college football show on ESPN a couple of years ago that the academies kind of had like their pick of the litter during the 40s because of the war and because they
Yeah,
would they would send the best athletes to the academy. So it's a really different model, and it's hard to compare that to kind of all the challenges that Coach Monken and the staff are up against these days with NIL, transfer portal, everything else. So I completely agree with you. Alex, how about it? What are your thoughts on the 2024 season so far?
Yeah, I mean, everything that they've done so far is already kind of, cemented them in history. Is this going to be a very memorable and significant year in Army football? I was texting John Luce last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago, but he would always talk about the '96 team and how he couldn't believe it that he was trick or treating and they hadn't lost yet. And so he'd always talk about that. He's like, "Yeah, I remember back in '96, we'd go trick or treating, we still hadn't lost yet." So I texted him basically that exact thing. Like, look at you, you're trick or treating today, and you haven't lost yet. So let's keep it up. But yeah, I mean, it's just something where it's extremely memorable. They've handled their business every single week. Um, and yeah, and they have a great opportunity now against the Notre Dame team that they're obviously very talented, very well coached, but they've shown that they can slip up, and that if the other team comes out and plays like they should, that it's up for the taking for Army. So it's a huge opportunity, and I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah, and it's funny if they win this week, Coach Luce could say he's eating turkey and they haven't
Yeah,
lost yet. So
yeah, you can
that'd be
elevate
good
it.
stuff. So Alex, and you guys, I'm really interested in this question because we got a defensive guy and an offensive guy here, so you might have different answers on this. Alex, what specifically has impressed you the most about what you've seen with the 2024 Army team?
Well, I guess just coming from the defensive perspective, I think the one thing I haven't seen the stats about it, but I think the red zone defense has to be historic. I mean, especially in Army history, but they have to be top five in the country. When all those analytics nerds, they definitely probably have some stats to support it. Because every game, I'm just like, they get down to the red zone, and it is extremely difficult to put the ball in the end zone. So. That's probably just sticks out to me of like, man, they're having a hard time against this Army defense down there.
Yeah, I believe unless it's changed in the last week and I haven't been paying attention, I believe they're number one in the nation in red zone defense.
Yeah.
So, which is pretty amazing. Um, Raymond, how about you? What's impressed you the most out of what you've seen out of the team so far this year?
Honestly, I mean, being an offensive guy, I'm a, you know, elated with the offensive line.
Hmm.
The way that they come out and handle their business week in and week out, led by Connor Finucane, it's pretty scary to see, man. And I don't think, I think when defenses line up against them, and they don't really want any parts of it. And they kind of showed, their strength and their ability once Bryson Daly kind of went off a little bit, and they still were able to kind of move the ball and put up points and do their thing. And that's like that offensive line is scary. But then you add in all the skill players, Bryson Daly. Now we got T-Rod back. That's the addition to all the other guys that we have back there, and it's a pretty scary offense once they get rolling. Adding to the top that they got the number one red zone defense. I didn't even know that they were number one. Man, it's a pretty scary team, and I'm again, man, I'm excited for this opportunity to have this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty cool. I was listening to Coach Freeman at Notre Dame, his press conference on Monday, and he wanted to make clear to everybody, like, look, this is not Navy 2.0. This is a completely different team, and if we're not ready for it, they're going to rock our world. Raymond, I specifically wanted to ask you. I'm glad you mentioned the mob, the offensive line. You know, how would a guy who's having a really successful year, you mentioned T-Rob, but a guy who's having a really successful year at the running back position, who kind of reminds me of you and his style a little bit, is Kanye Udo, even though he's in the
Yep.
fullback position. How cool would it be? How would you like to play in this offense? Maybe in the gun next to Bryson as the single setback, or maybe as the B back in the under center option with this offensive line.
Oh, I would love it. I would love it. And this is a token to their success, man. They're able to do this like on a consistent basis, and just I mean, honestly, I mean, I am, I don't even want to say elated no more, but it is very incredible to kind of watch these guys come out and do the things that they do. I was pretty successful with our offensive line, but if I was behind this offensive line, man, I don't know. I probably would have broke every Army record. Know what I mean? But it is great to
I
watch
don't
these guys
doubt
come
it.
out and handle their business.
Yeah, it's funny too. That's what like I could tell Coach Freeman at Notre Dame knows what he's talking about because he's the first guy I've really heard opposing coach talk about, with Army, it starts with their offensive line. And he's like, the amazing thing is he said this. He's like, normally you play an academy team, you have a huge size advantage over them. And he's like, this is the biggest academy offensive line I've
Yeah,
ever
it's
seen.
very different, and that's kudos to Coach Munkin, Coach Hughes, for getting the boys, to the size that they're at, and Coach Munkin kind of getting them to, kind of away from all the things that the academy kind of do to kind of hinder their weight advantage and disadvantages and stuff. So props to them, and and I'm excited for these guys.
Yeah, I think it's really cool to see the genuine excitement in former players like yourself, like who know how special this season is. That's really cool. Yeah,
Mhm.
talking about weight, I think one of the coolest stories of the year is Connor Finucane and how, he thought his career was over, so he dropped all that weight and then he came back in the first game of the year. I think he was like 267 and now he's back up over 290. He's just been gradually putting on weight every week. I agree with you. I think Connor Hughes needs to, I don't know if they give a strength coach of the year award nationally,
Yeah,
but
they,
he
they need
should
they
be in
need to.
consideration.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
need to. That man definitely deserves it. He deserves it.
Absolutely, especially when you look at like the sleep restrictions on the Army players and everything compared to everywhere else. You guys don't get the recovery time that they get at other schools. And then every summer you go out and, I know some exceptions have been made, like you said, and Coach Monken's been able to kind of get them to be a little more flexible. But the military training over the summer still beats on their bodies. And for them to
Mhm.
be able to come back and do this is just really impressive.
Yes, sir.
Yep. So, let's see, talking about Yankee Stadium now and the historic venue. I believe the last Army game in Yankee Stadium was in Coach Monken's first season. Raymond, it would have been your first year. Is that right? 2014, the Chris Carnegie pick six to win the game. Was that
Yep,
2014?
yep. At UConn, right?
Yep.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, so that was a memorable game because of that pick six, sealed the win. And so we'll start with you, Raymond. Can you talk about what it was like playing in a historic venue like Yankee Stadium? I mean, I know it's a baseball stadium, but it's pretty, Mike, every year when Sports Illustrated lists like the most historic, like most prestigious venues, Mikey's always in there, but then Yankee
Mhm.
Stadium is right up there as well.
So first off, I was fortunate enough to have A-Rod's locker when I was,
Oh,
and
wow.
that was, that was just an experience in itself. But actually going out onto the field, the stands are a whole lot further away from the field than than what you realize. But it is a great field to play in. Such a historic venue as Yankee Stadium. Just behind all the success that the Yankees actually have had, and to kind of be able to walk the same halls, and sit in the same lockers, and be on the same field as some of the greats. It's just an amazing feeling. You add into all the other stuff that comes into it. Playing in New York City, all the crazy stuff, and then now you got Notre Dame coming through. It's going to be a great show. And honestly, my freshman year, we played Notre Dame at Yankee Stadium, and
Yeah, I was
granted,
going to ask you about that. I thought you played Notre Dame at Yankee Stadium, but I couldn't put the chronology
mhm.
together in my head.
Yep,
So,
yep. My
yeah.
freshman year, we played Notre Dame at Yankee Stadium, and the outcome wasn't great, but even still, that was a great experience in itself. And I mean, I'm excited for the guys to be able to kind of experience that as well. Notre Dame brings a pretty good fan base. I mean, as you know, and the place is going to be rocking, and I'm excited for the guys again. So.
Good stuff. And Alex, I remember you telling me a little bit about the Yankees locker room and what that was like. I think you were a plebe that year when you guys played there. So, talk a little bit about that. And yeah, and then we'll move on from there.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying how crazy it was that we travel 85 people or whatever it is. And like we were comfortable in that locker room that has like, 27 lockers or whatever it is.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it was just like first class accommodations all around. And yeah, it was just super cool experience. At that point, I was just kind of the special teams guy. So, you know, later on in your career, at least for me, I was like, man, I kind of miss those days where it was like every game was almost just like a little way to get out of your plebe duties and kind of go on a and play like 20 snaps that are, a little less pressure as, running playing every single snap
Run
on.
down the field and just create collisions.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's
yeah, you
like-
don't have to think much, and so that I was really able to like take in the full experience the freshman year, and then like later on, like senior year, it's like I barely remember some of the stuff in some of the stadium
right.
because it was all just like focused in on the game. So yeah,
Absolutely. And Alex, I know you guys had the opportunity to play Notre Dame down in San Antonio, I believe it was,
yeah.
in the Alamo Dome, your Cal season. And so, what's it like getting a shot to play a blue blood program like Notre Dame? When you come to a school like Army, the upside now obviously is they're in a conference, so they play some pretty good programs in that conference. But still, they're G5 teams, right? And you guys played a lot of G5 teams and some FCS teams. Notre Dame wasn't the only quote unquote blue blood you played, but what's that like for an Army player to be able to get the opportunity to play big time college football like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the second you finish the game before, you got to lock in, and really focus on the game plan and prepare for the game because, there are probably going to be situations, at least there were for me, where it's like you are a little bit of a physical disadvantage. Um, I know going into our Notre Dame game, I was tasked to go from more of an outside backer to a 4-eye, like defensive lineman.
Hmm.
Which I had done some, but they knew they were gonna come out passing. Um, I think that was year. I think Deshaun Kaiser was the quarterback. They had
Okay.
St. Brown, so they were really like air raid offense. So, um, but yeah, I mean, I was getting blocked by Quentin Nelson, Mike McGlinchey, and it was one of those games where it was just like, man, they were a whole different beast than Penn State or any of those other big O
Right.
lines played. And they were, it was just obviously from the opening kickoff, they returned the opening kickoff, and that kind of set the tone for the whole game. And they rode that momentum kind of the whole, from that point on. But you just gotta, those things will happen. With those really good teams, if you take a lead early, they're gonna have a punch back at some point. So you just got to take one snap at a time, and you're never out of it. And then just keep fighting until the final horn.
Yep. And Raymond, like you said, you had the opportunity to play Notre Dame in Yankee Stadium, I think your plebe year. So what was the experience like for you?
It was great. So back then, they had Monte Teo, and I'm sorry, I gotta bring this up. So this is one play, I had the ball, we kind of met in the hole, and I hit him, it was kind of a stalemate thing, but at the end of the game, man, he kind of left, and I found out that he ended up breaking his nose. So I mean, that was my,
Wow.
that was my. So if you watch the quarterback camp by Gruden, he kind of talked about his, hey, like what's gonna happen when you face big backs in NFL, and you got to face guys that's gonna be 230 pounds running full force, and they showed the clip contacting me, and
Nice.
then him going to the sideline with his nose. I
Nice.
mean, like, man, that
That's
was great. Granted,
that's
I mean,
awesome. We
we ended up losing the game.
we
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 lost
need
the
more of
game, but I
those
mean, that
clips
was a
though of
cool
Army
moment for me.
players running over other players. Like, I don't know if anyone else gets as tired as I do of watching Randy Moss hurdle that defensive back on a screen pass for the 70-yard run against Army or whatever. Every time they show a Randy Moss highlight, it starts with the play
Yeah.
against Army. Like,
Yeah, he went
come on.
crazy. He went crazy against Army.
We almost won that game too. We lost like 38-35. Marshall had no defense. And that was the year after the 96 team for Army. So we had graduated like everybody. But still played them pretty tough. So cool. All right. So last question for both of you. Not gonna ask either of you to make a prediction for Saturday night. but can you each give me 2 to 3 keys to the game in order for Army to have a chance? Raymond, let's start with you.
All right, so I'll give you two. I think one, if we could find a way to contain the quarterback from scrambling, I think that's his biggest asset. Granted, he can throw the ball, but I think his major threat is him running the ball. So if we can find a way to keep him contained, I think that'll play into our favor. And then again, if our offense, if we can do what we do all year, control the ball, keep everybody healthy, and keep the time of possession in our favor, I think we'll have a good chance of coming out with the victory.
Totally agree. Riley Leonard's he's a good passer, but he's a much better runner than he is a passer.
Yeah.
So I think that's huge. Alex, how about it?
I mean, I would say starting with the guys up front, just controlling the line of scrimmage. You can really wear those dudes down. I know just historically, defensive linemen just hate to play Army. Physicality,
Mhm.
not chop blocks, not illegal chop blocks, but going at the legs. Like there's so many things. Like you remember when Army went and played Houston in the bowl game, it was like next
Oh
day, Ed
yeah.
Oliver was like, I'm not playing. Like he's out. Like two other D linemen are like, I'm not playing. So, those
Adrian
dudes,
Oliver didn't want to play, and then the rest of them didn't want to play, but they
yeah.
actually put up to the game.
Yeah. But, just wear those D linemen down. They're out there. They want to get their sacks. They want to improve their draft stock. And it's just like, we're going to be running downhill at you. So I would just say controlling the line of scrimmage, controlling the ball. The longer you can take the ball out of their hands and just have those long, sustaining classic Army drives like they had last week or 2 weeks ago, obviously with the bye week. But, those things can now all of a sudden the offensive coordinator's kind of starting to panic of like how many times are we gonna get the ball? You might get them in a situation where like the analytics is saying you should punt it, but the offensive coordinator's like, we got to go for it because I
There
don't
you
know if we're gonna
go.
get the ball back
Yeah.
type situations. Now, you turn the ball over on downs and you have great field position. So I would just say those are kind of the main things I see of just controlling the line of scrimmage on both sides and controlling the time of possession and they'll have a good shot.
Yeah, I completely agree with that as well. Against North Texas, they held them to 6 possessions and got 3 stops in the red zone.
Yeah.
They can hold Notre Dame to 6 or maybe even 8. 6 is a high bar, but if they can hold them to 8,
Yeah.
I think they have a legitimate shot. So, guys, thanks a ton. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your insight. The GBK crew is going to love it. Our fan base really excited to hear from 2 former players. Great to see the excitement level around the game. Are either of you going to be making your way to the Bronx for Saturday night?
I will not be. I'll be.
I
Unfortunately,
I'm sure.
I can't. I got.
Yeah, being in
Yeah,
Indiana, I'm going to be watching it with Notre Dame fans, so I'm going to be
yeah,
out
that's
there
right. You're in
branding.
Indiana with all the.
Yeah, yeah. So
Enjoy that. That's good stuff. Okay. Well, hey, Army fans, this has been Joe Iacono with GoBlackKnights.com, along with former Army players Raymond Maples and Alex Aukerman, coming at you live from Midtown Manhattan, hence all the noise in the background and the horns and the ambulances and everything. We are ready for game time in 2 days. Go Army, beat Notre Dame.